Merrill, and today we are making the finalists for your best fruit tart recipe. And I am making a blueberry tart by Small Kitsch Cara.
And I'm making a savory plum tart by Jackie K.
So the first thing we're going to do is make the dough.
I'm going to do a traditional one. Mine's a pâte brisée. It's just butter, flour, salt, and ice water.
And mine is actually a press into the pan dough, which I love because, as Amanda knows, I'm terrified of rolling out dough, especially on camera.
The first thing I'm going to do is show you two little tricks for sifting flour. The first one is taught to me by my grandmother. So if you don't have a sifter, you just take a whisk and put it into your flour container and go like that, because it lightens it up. Because flour, you know, when it sits, kind of weighs down and compacts, and you don't want to be just measuring based on that.
Mom, what are you making?
Bacon for like we have our interviewer.
Well, what's that?
I'm making a pastry dough. So I have flour and salt in here, and I'm going to add the butter, which has been sliced into little pieces.
It's very cold.
It's cold-ish.
Should be very cold.
It should be very cold, but it's actually melting in my hand. Put the top on, and then you pulse it until you have coarse crumbs. That looks pretty good.
That looks pretty good.
You add actually a fair amount of water, a 1/4 cup. It's ice water, so you want the water, I mean, you want all of your ingredients to be super cold. Rosalie Berenbaum, who wrote the Pie and Pastry Bible, she actually has you freeze the flour.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she has you freeze everything before you make her doughs. As you can see, this is a really lovely, moist dough.
And you just pulsed it like 3 times.
Yeah, it doesn't come together in one ball. I always stop right here, and then I pour it onto a plastic wrap and form it into a ball. So I've dumped the pastry onto the plastic wrap. I'm just going to form it into a disc with my hands, and actually use the plastic wrap to do a lot of the work, because then it doesn't stick to you. Done. Put it in the fridge.
So for my dough, I have flour, sugar, and salt in this bowl. And in here I've got melted butter and some vanilla. And would you mind stirring for me while I drizzle in the
You can actually stir pretty firmly.
vigorously.
Yeah, vigorously.
Because the butter's melted. And then you put this very loose dough right into the pan, and you press it in with your fingers.
There's a very similar dough on the site in a blog post that I wrote about plum tart. I call it my vacation pastry, because I can be anywhere and make it. I don't need a rolling pin. I don't need great equipment.
I'm just going to put it in the fridge for a little bit.
I'm going to roll out Jackie K's pastry. I do love this rolling pin.
My mom has an old one, and the handles come unscrewed all the time. And so you'll be in the middle of rolling something, and all of a sudden, your arm will just fly out because the handles come off. That's amazing. So
See, you want to touch it? It's so nice.
Ooh.
Jackie K says, use a 9-inch plate, which is such a great little tip. Isn't that fun?
It is fun, actually. Thank you for letting me do that.
And then what she does is she has you roll in the sides as if it were a pie crust. So you lay a piece of foil on top, and then pie weights, and you can use pie weights that you buy. I just happen to use dried chickpeas and rice. And then you actually lift the foil around the edges, and then you brush the outer crust. Go ahead, with an egg wash. I'm going to bake it for 8 minutes with the pie weights, and then take the pie weights off and bake it for another 10, which we'll show you. Now we are going to take the pie weights off.
And then you prick this all over with a fork, right?
Yeah.
And this is to keep it from puffing up when you put it back in the oven, right?
Yep. And then you stick it back in the oven, essentially until it dries out. Okay, it's done. It's perfect. I'm going to begin preparing the topping for the savory plum tart. And the first thing you do is heat a pan over medium heat and add a tablespoon of butter. So the onions are cooking. So the onions are still cooking. And they're still cooking. And they're still cooking.
So the crust for Small Kitsch Cara's blueberry tart is blind baking in the oven, and I'm going to put together the filling in the meantime. I have 2 cups of blueberries, 2 peaches chopped up, and then you add the juice of a lemon, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and stir it through.
You see, it's funny because it looks like primarily peach, but then when it bakes, it seems more blueberry.
That's true. While that sits for a little bit, I'm going to put together the crumble topping. I've got some rolled oats, some sugar, some flour, cinnamon, and a pinch of salt. And I'm going to add this very soft butter with my hands. The crust is out of the oven and it's firmed up a little bit. It's a little bit dry looking, but it's not actually browned. So we're just gonna let that cool for a few minutes before putting the filling in and then baking again.
Onions are still cooking, but they are just finishing up, and I just realized that I used butter and I was supposed to use olive oil. So, but we're not starting over. So I'm gonna scrape these into a bowl. Then I'm gonna add another tablespoon of butter to the pan. You add the plums, and you want to spread them around. And the idea is you're kind of just warming them through, browning them very slightly on the edges, and then shutting off the heat.
So I'm putting the filling into the crust for the blueberry tart. I'm going to actually lift the fruit out of here with my hands so that I don't get all of the juice. So the fruit's in. I'm going to sprinkle the crumble over evenly.
All right, I'm going to finish my savory plum tart, and it's really just a matter of assembly. And you add mascarpone, just enough to coat the topping, and you can spread as much as you like. And if you can't get mascarpone, we think that this could be really great with creme fraiche or Greek yogurt. You essentially just want like a tangy cheese of some sort. Cheese. And then here comes the delicate part. So use a thin and flexible spatula and just lift them on top of the tart. And I like this also because you could serve this as an hors d'oeuvre, and you can do every component ahead of time and then just assemble it right before people come. So it's a kind of like no panic dish.
And so impressive visually.
Boop.
Perfect. That's exactly where I would put that piece.
Yeah.
Great minds. Isn't that where you would put it?
Think for themselves.
Oh, I like that. I've never heard that before.
It's a very Hellenism.
It is.
As a finishing touch, you sprinkle on a little bit of balsamic vinegar.
Yeah, the fight's the honey jar.
Apparently the honey jar
And
wins.
one.
Triumph.
And a little honey. Then
The basil appears magically on the table.
the basil magically appears on your countertop. You can also just use a pair of snizzers.
Snippers.
A pair of scissors. And,
I prefer snizzers.
and there you go.
So the blueberry tart by Small Kitch Cara just came out of the oven a few minutes ago. It looks and smells delicious.
And that's how you know when it's done.
That's how you know when it's done.
We love both of these recipes. We think they're fantastic. And now it's your turn to vote.